Everybody, it's 5 a.m. here in Las Vegas, 3 p.m. in Estonia, some other time everywhere else. My name's still Kevin Murcko, as far as I know. Got enough sleep last night, so I'm pretty sure that's my name. Still CEO here at Coinmetro, still trying to do my thing and push things along. And this is called an AMA. That stands for Ask Me Anything. So you ask, I answer. Literally, it can be anything. I might not answer it if it's too much of anything. But let's see what happens. Let's jump right into it. It's been about 2 weeks, I think, since the last one of these bad boys, or 3 weeks maybe, maybe even more. It's been a while. It's been a while. I've been traveling back to back to back to back. I think I was 17 days traveling. Then I was home for 4 days in Estonia. Now I'm on my second day of 18 days worth of travel. So yeah, that's why, this. Let's jump right into it. Hike the mic. Hey, Kevin, long time no see. Will we receive the Flux airdrop before the next snapshot in 10 days? Well, you're going to receive it. That much I can tell you. Understand, the Flux Flux does what they want to do because that's Flux, and Flux is cool, and Flux can do what they want to do. We, however, obviously have a massive business to run. And so, we can't just do things at the same timetable as everybody else. If we did that, we wouldn't be doing our own thing, right? So you will definitely get your Flux airdrop. Whether it happens in the next 10 days, I've seen a Slack thread internally just about 3 days ago, trying to get some clarity on that. So we will have clarity on that. We might not have clarity on that till next week, or I might if you ask me on an AMA. But if you keep on asking in Telegram, there'll probably be some clarity over the next few days, probably early next week. Great to see you on so many panels recently. Thank you, London. Yeah, it's been fun. I really like the Amsterdam panel you took part in. One thing you talked about was that crypto as an industry needs to create and control its own narrative. How can this be achieved? Well, you'll notice, if you haven't noticed, you'll notice, and at some point you're going to notice even more, that the big boys in crypto, your Coinbases, your Binances, your FTXs, etc., are starting to craft their own narrative. And while some of that narrative is down the same line as maybe the Coinmetro narrative, some of it isn't. And you'll also notice that it's going to go in direct, indirect. It's Friday, man. I don't know. And it's 5 a.m. You got to give me some slack. It's going to go in, basically, it's going to be a mirror image. I don't know why I can't think of a word in the English language right now. But against what a lot of other people in the crypto sector and the crypto industry want to see happen. Why? Well, as companies get bigger, they want to make sure that the narrative is crafted so that they are, able to do their thing and their competition is dissolved. And so this happens in every industry. This isn't crypto specific. It definitely happens in finance. You get big enough where you can make the rules. You're going to make rules that hinder other people's businesses and allow you to thrive. That's what happens, right? And so now these players are starting to do that. And so when I say crypto needs to control its narrative, it's not about any specific company or any specific company's wants or needs. Look, at the end of the day, I think everybody wants roughly the same thing. We want two things, really. We want choice and we want adoption. And choice means a bit different things to different people, right? But at the end of the day, I want to be able to choose between whether I have my money in the fiat system or I have my money in this new alternative system. I want to choose whether I move assets on chain or I move assets over SEPA, SWIFT, etc. I want to choose whether I can buy gold and stick it in a vault or I can buy Bitcoin and put it on a cold wallet. And I don't want to be hindered in any one of those choices. I understand from my perspective that there's always going to be this, gatekeeping strategy from regulators until there are no more regulators. And that gatekeeping strategy is going to mean when I come in with my fiat through any type of exchange or wallet, I'm going to be known, right? There's going to be KYC. They're going to know who I am. Fine. Once I'm inside, though, I want to be able to transact as freely as I should be. I also believe, just like with cash, once you extract that cash from the system, i.e. you go to the bank and extract the cash or you're paid in cash from a job you did, if you want to move that to somebody else, you shouldn't have to, that other person necessarily shouldn't have all your details or access to them. It doesn't make any sense. That's the way the current financial system works. Why would we change that? Especially when, even when there aren't not names attached, these pseudo-anonymous transactions for the most part in crypto are highly traceable. And so at the end of the day, the government kind of gets what they want, but we still retain a bit of privacy. To get there though, imagine a scenario where everybody is just ultra liberal and, screw the government. We don't want to give you anything, fuck FATF, all that great shit. Let's assume that's where everybody is. How do you get adoption from that? Why do you think we've gotten adoption up to this point? We've gotten to this point with a good amount of adoption because there were rules, because banks and because regulated exchanges were able to grow. And because, yes, the first initial push was almost not regulated, but it was going to be regulated. And once it's becoming regulated, it hasn't gotten smaller. It's gotten bigger, more liquidity, more people coming in, loons like Sailor and other people that are coming in. They're coming in on the back of rules and regulation. Now, if we were just a bunch of people wanting to do, cold wallet swaps back and forth, Bitcoin would be worth like 22 cents and nobody would care. And there'd be very little mass adoption. So, I think from a narrative perspective, one, we need to work together. I understand that I'm never going to be a Matt Odell and he's never going to be a Kevin Murcko. That's fine. But we need to understand that at the end of the day, we want basically the same thing. The way we get there is different. But we need to make sure that there isn't enough overreach, that we don't get kind of stifled by the big boys. And then your FTXs and your Coinbases, whatever, just become the JP Morgans of, 2050. And then, they're saying that everything new sucks and that it doesn't work, whatever. That's one thing. That's one issue I have with the Maxi, the Bitcoin Maxi people, is that Bitcoin's amazing. Everything else sucks. But basically your gold maxis, like your Peter Schiffs, it's the same narrative. It's just about a different asset. So how can you say one person, the other guy's wrong and you're right when you do the exact same things? All right, moving on. France wants to be the biggest crypto hub in Europe. Any opinion based on the regulatory frame? Yeah, well, everybody says they want to be the biggest whatever. But France has never been the biggest hub for anything financial, right? If you think about banking in Europe, actually, when it comes to licensed banking, I think it's the Netherlands, actually. Most companies, especially after Brexit, for example, when banks were based just in the UK and were able to passport services because the UK was part of the EU, they went to Netherlands. That's where they went, right? That's where they went at the end of the day. They didn't go to France. They didn't go to Germany. Some did go to Germany, but most got licensed in the Netherlands. So I don't see France becoming just because if you think about France and their politics and generally, all the yellow jackets, they complain about everything and they're always in the street. They're also Latin, which means they're hot-blooded and, get kind of really emotional about stuff. I don't see, France, Italy, Spain, any of these Latin countries becoming the hub for a major, potentially global, changing, shifting financial, Jesus, what's wrong with me today? I don't know. I'm going to take a sip of water. Maybe that'll help. Let's see what happens. All right. I feel like a news anchor on Fox News or something right now. So no, I don't think it's France. London, UK still has a big shot to be the player in this area of the world, whether they're in Europe or not. Well, they're in Europe. I mean, generally speaking, they're not in the EU, but so I think it might be the UK. I think, Germany's a massive market. So definitely Germany has potential, but Germany right now isn't really tooting its own horn. I think the Netherlands still has a shot. The Dutch National Bank has been trying to regulate crypto for some time and doing so relatively well in comparison to other member states. So, but I don't think it's France. Doesn't make sense to me. Thoughts on SBF bill that would consider DeFi projects being classified as digital commodity platforms and DEXs as trading facilities? It seems like a real overreach that's self-serving. Well, I just talked about this, right? So when, FTX and their vision is definitely going to be a narrative that suits FTX the most. As simple as that. Plus, FTX, unlike, let's say, our Jesse Powell, for example, from Kraken, understands, or at least is trying to become like the good guy in the media. And the good guy in the media says that, there are bad people that do bad things. Now, I say that same thing sometimes. But at the end of the day, for me, I think I'm a realist. And I understand that these things, they're going to try to regulate DeFi. They absolutely will. The question is, who from the DeFi sector is talking to them and talking to regulators, talking to legislators and saying, look, this is the problem. These are the problems we have. Most of the problems we have are about security. Most of the problems we have are not about, some specific issue that may already exist in traditional finance. It's about security. And it's also about people making promises that are never going to come true or people building things that are flawed right from the get-go. So oversight for me should be about oversight on a product or service that gets basically, poked and prodded until the regulator believes, yes, this is fit for purpose. You can release this. And then it's about insurance. That's really, I think, the extent of how far regulation should go. But if we did that, DeFi would become bigger. It would become regulated. but very softly, and it would quickly grow to probably outnumber the amount of transactions that are happening on major centralized exchanges. And obviously that's not good for FTX. Now, why that might not also be good for Coinmetro, we're small enough to pivot. I told you a million times that I think this is going to be hybrid. There are going to be elements that are decentralized, elements that aren't, and they're going to be hybrid solutions. And I think the hybrid solutions at the end of the day are going to win, simply because people are used to using certain types of services. And most people don't have a problem with going through, KYC. Most people, I don't think, want, human traffickers to move money through a system unabated. And so it's just about, it's about streamlining, not about this, let's all do this without anybody knowing who we are. But if SBF or anyone else in that type of position starts to push and give the regulator and the legislators enough fuel to say, well, if the industry wants this, this is what we should do, then that's what's going to happen. And they're going to do a bad job at it, because just like I think SBF said in his Twitter thread. It was a thread, I believe. It was a thread. They put a little thread emoji, so boomers like me would know it was a thread. Inside of a thread that I read just yesterday or the day before, he basically said, yeah, this is a tough one, but, I think this is what they should do. I might be wrong. Yeah, I think he's wrong. Bizdev, especially IBANs, internal transfers, merchant services, still good. Hey, Based. Yeah, I wrote Bizdev in there because I figured somebody was going to come in and ask about Bizdev. I'm glad it was you, man. I'm glad it was you. So IBANs, currently the digital fiat project is in the works. It has a project manager and it's chugging along. Q1, Q2. And the reason for that is MasterCard, and I think Visa as well, has now extended the amount of time it takes, especially for crypto companies, to get cards out the door, physical cards, to about 6 months. I think we can get virtual cards in roughly 3 or 4. And IBANs are going to come first. So IBANs will probably come pretty early Q1. And then following that, we're gonna do V1, V2, V3, V4, etc. For those challenger bank services. Internal transfers on the roadmap for this quarter, I believe, Q4. Merchant services in the works, currently working on Bitcoin Lightning, a few other things, and actually 2 different things with merchant services, all still good. Did you meet any interesting people at the conferences you attend? Maybe some potential investors. There's always some interesting people. There's always people. There's always at least one person that you walk away, even from the smallest event or the most terrible event or whatever, and go, yeah, I'm glad I came. I came just for this. That doesn't mean that turns automatically into some type of biz dev opportunity or it turns into an investor. But building out your network and letting people know who you are, what you do, what your vision is, and stuff like that's like creating waves. And so that first wave might not be the one that crashes on shore, but you're just going to keep creating waves, and more waves you create, the better. So yeah, I met a lot of interesting people in every event I've attended, had really good conversations, talked to potential investors, talked to potential biz dev, talked to just new friends, new acquaintances. Also talked a lot of B2B, especially in Amsterdam. We got a lot of B2B attention in Amsterdam, mainly because our booth was smack dab right in front of the door when people walked in. So you kind of had to talk to us. Really, you had to. There was no way. We just kind of blocked both sides of the booth, and that's it, man. You're talking to us if you want to or not. Talking about giving clients choice, give them choice to how to buy crypto. Some prefer cash at their bank, might not allow crypto purchases, hence lost transaction, and some clients need some form of anonymity from their banks. Give them choice on how to buy. Okay, let me read this again because you got like 1 comma and a period in here. I'm going to read this again. Here we go. Talking about giving clients choice. 2 commas, sorry. Cool. Give them choice on how to buy crypto. Some prefer cash as their bank might not allow crypto purchase. Okay. Hence lost transactions. Yep. And some clients need some form of anonymity. Anonymity. I hate that word. I don't hate the word. I just hate trying to pronounce it, from their banks. Give them the choice on how to buy. Yeah. Look, we are regulated. And when I say we need to make changes from the inside out, well, we are regulated, and obviously it's our job, and this isn't something that happens in a day, a week, a month, or even a year, to let legislators know, not regulators per se, but legislators more than that crypto is already pseudo-anonymous, and making every transaction known with connected data doesn't actually help you very much. In fact, it just pushes people to use fake data, or it just pushes people to lie. And that data becomes garbage in, garbage out. Might be immutable on some type of database, like in a blockchain, but if it's garbage, it's still garbage. It's just garbage you can't erase. And so, cash, very hard, very difficult to deal with. We don't have physical locations, right? So coming into Coinmetro's office with cash is not going to get you crypto, unfortunately. There are other service providers, though, that can do that. There are physical locations, and that's great. They can go there. And then once they have crypto and they want to be able to trade it, they can come to Coinmetro, and we'll provide amazing service and give them amazing platforms to trade on. When it comes to being anonymous, yeah, right. Estonian law, which is where our headquarters are based, doesn't allow for us to have any type of anonymous transactions. Other jurisdictions have thresholds, $200, 200, 500 euros, 1,000 euros, whatever, right? And as we expand our scope in terms of where we have offices, where we have licenses, et cetera, we're going to be able to offer in regions where it's possible a little bit of anonymous activity, right? You'll be able to come in and maybe buy $1,000 or euros or pounds or whatever worth of crypto without us having to ask who you are. But unfortunately, right now, we can't do that. But that is part of the goal. And that's part of choice. You're right. That is definitely part of the choice narrative. Hey, Kevin, what are your thoughts on thought? I've said this. I after I had a conversation with the thought team, I like thought. I liked what they were trying to do. I liked the ideas that they had. I liked what they were trying to build. I liked the problem they were trying to solve. Well, I didn't like the problem. I liked the fact they were trying to solve the problem, or the problem, or the problems that they described. I have said more than once that, there's still a lot of work that thought needs to do in order for them to get kind of more exposure on the main stage, as they say. And so for me, it's a very long-term hold. I still own a bunch of thought. I've never sold any thought. I recently bought a bit more thought. But for me, it's not a year, it's not 2 years. It might be a 5-year play, maybe even longer than that. I do think, though, that they are going to continue down the path, continue to fight, and continue to try and get to their end goal and hit their mission and project their vision. I mean, I honestly think that's why I still hold the asset. Price to me is obviously important in the long run, but I think for me, when I look at a project, just like when I travel to a city, I say this is a 3-day city. I can spend 3 days here before I go crazy. It's a 5-day city. There aren't many 5-day cities, to be honest. There's a couple, but not many. Also, when I get into any type of investment, when I'm going to buy something, I look at it and say, okay, I'm willing to hold this for 3 months, 6 months, 1 year, 5 years, 10 years, whatever the case may be. And if that's the case, hands off, right? Trust your instincts. The SEC recently claimed that every transaction on the Ethereum chain falls under U.S. jurisdiction. Will there be a fight between U.S. and foreign regulators over who gets to regulate ETH transactions? Well, there might be. This was claimed, I believe, in a lawsuit against Ian Ballium, who was or might still be, an influencer who made a bunch of money with ICOs and didn't disclose it. And inside of there, I believe that's where this was mentioned, if I'm not mistaken. So, mentioning something offhand inside of another case doesn't mean much until it actually is officially mentioned or they officially start to follow this narrative and try to push some form of legislation around this narrative. I can see why they would want to do that, because it allows them data. Now, remember, there's something called the U.S. Cloud Act. This is where it gets interesting. So the U.S. Cloud Act allows the U.S. government to take information off of any server that's owned by a U.S. company, wherever that server may be, without a warrant, without asking, they can just take it. So AWS, where is most crypto infrastructure based? It's based on AWS servers, whether they be in London, whether they be in, wherever they are. And Amazon, its parent company, is a U.S. company. So the Cloud Act allows the U.S. government to roll in and just take the information. Now, if they can, with combination with the Cloud Act and being able to be the regulator that looks over all transactions, and potentially trying to, I don't know, put some other nonsense onto those transactions, like tax, like when you're buying something, if they can prove that you're buying something, that becomes a pretty shitty scenario. Now, whether or not that's where it's headed, I don't know. We haven't seen anything official yet. So until we do, it's just hearsay. It's just something mentioned in another case. Will other regulators fight? Well, it depends. What are they fighting for? If they're fighting just to be able to say that transactions are happening in their jurisdiction, maybe not. If that leads to a fight of whether or not they can tax those transactions, well, then yeah, I would imagine regulators, especially tax authorities around the world, would try and fight. But, you know, fighting the US in that type of dispute, yeah, not a good track record, I think, unfortunately. What percentage of CM customers are in the US? Off the top of my head, I would say it's probably 40%, something like that. It will be UK, Germany, or Netherlands, the most industrious countries in Europe historically. I don't see that being any different this time around. Yep, same. Same three countries I mentioned. I think the Netherlands has, in terms of regulation, though once MiCA comes out, it doesn't really matter. Germany and Netherlands are on the same, you know, in terms of regulatory, they're going to be identical, almost identical. UK won't be. UK may choose to adopt something like MiCA, but I would say it probably ends up being the Netherlands simply because I think they regulated crypto a bit better than Germany did up to this point, though the UK is still the UK. So, you know, for Europe, obviously, Netherlands, I think. But globally, UK has a pretty good shot of being a nice global hub in comparison because, well, most of the money in the world, fiat money, flows through the UK. London, basically. Any updates you can share with us on the Mexican office and the EU expansion? Well, Mexican office is rocking and rolling. It's been open for some time now. People are there every day working and making sure that all you guys have a great experience on Coinmetro. When it comes to licensing, we're in the process of we now have law firms for several different things in Mexico. And we're in the process now of working with them to move the ball forward. The licensing process in Mexico is going to take about 18 months. So that's going to be a long one. UAE expansion also in the works. When I was in Dubai just recently to speak at GITEX, I didn't have time, unfortunately, to go sit with Vara. I was only there for literally 2 days and just running around like a crazy person. But we are filing back and forth with them, opening up a company, etc. So all that stuff is moving forward as well. It's time to sell the house and go all in. Yeah, I wouldn't sell your house to go into crypto. I know there's stories about people like there's that one family, they sold all their possessions, bought Bitcoin when it was like $1 or something. And now, you know, Warren Buffett's shining their shoes or something. But, you know, don't ever take a solid investment. I mean, if your house is in an area where prices are falling and you know, they've gone down for 20 years and you're next to like a nuclear power plant and they're spilling waste into your backyard, you know, whatever, I don't know, like it just isn't a solid investment anymore. Fine, right? I mean, I guess you still got to find a place to live, which is going to be difficult, but don't ever take a solid investment that's paying, no matter what it's paying, and sell it to go into a more volatile one that may pay more. Don't do that. That's a terrible mistake. And most people that do that end up getting wrecked and hard. How is marketing going? Before you say there are good results, they haven't translated to volume or extra XCM holders so far. Well, so we've seen a transition inside of marketing. So we have a new head of marketing, just started, comes to us from Huawei, and then another crypto exchange that is growing in other parts of Europe and was growing under his helm. He's 2 weeks on the job, so he's starting to reformat a few things. You're going to see a lot of changes happening that we have been talking about but haven't done over the last year or two. And all those things, not just from the marketing angle, but also from, you know, website landing pages, our ability to have really high conversions using just our homepage, etc. So lots of stuff in the works there. We've still been pushing out marketing. We've been pushing out marketing on the same 2 or 3 channels. Volumes have gone going up on average. If you look at the average volume from the beginning of the year till now, you'll see that it dipped and now it is starting to go back up. It's not a massive move, but we are seeing more and more signups every day. By the end of the year, we'll be solidly at 500 signups a day, I believe, as long as we follow the same track. And that is 5 times more signups than we were getting just a few months ago. So marketing is working, but these things aren't something that, you know, you're not going to see the change immediately. But I can see the changes because I can see the numbers. Hey, Kevin, what changes are going on behind the scenes at CM that user won't see but will help improve the platform? All kinds of, there's always a million changes. So whether it be from infrastructure, just at beginning of the year, towards the beginning of the year, we got our first sysops guy on board. He's been doing an amazing job to make sure that all the little bits and pieces of the platform that need to be tied up are getting tied up. We're just going through basically an internal security audit. We just went through another audit with Hacken, which will be public probably in the next couple of weeks. And so lots of stuff going on behind the scenes about that, which is just system architecture and security, cybersecurity, et cetera. Then outside of that, we have, our product department, which has been pushing out lots and lots of updates on mobile app, pushing updates out on the web as well. Just making the product run better, making it run faster, et cetera. Those things will continue. You're going to see a lot of things, though, on the visually between now and the end of Q4. Actually, I even think you're going to see a Q4 roadmap at some point very soon. And that roadmap is going to cover some things that have already been done and also some things that are coming. Really, there's a lot more structure inside of the company. We finally started to kind of hone how internal clients are pushing requests. That used to happen all over the place. They used to happen via 16 different, messaging systems. And now it's all happening via one. Slowly but surely, guys, it takes time. People think that, when you look at other companies and you may think, well, if they can do it, but there is an element of luck, and there's also an element of who cares how we get there. Let's just get there. And we've kind of always been on the other side. I care how we get there because I want to make sure we stay there, right? Getting there is great, but staying there is worth so much more than getting there, to be honest. And so, building a team is probably one of the most difficult things to do, if not the most difficult, when you own a business. That the team is vitally important. If you have a great team, well, you don't have to worry about much. Shit just happens. If you don't, you have to worry about a lot. And, building that team, you might have 10 great people, but they can't work together. You may have 3 great people and 4 terrible people. You may have, whatever. Sometimes the combination surprises you in that you may have 80% really fantastic people, other 20% not so much, but they still get stuff done together. They understand each other and they can work together. You may have a team with, everybody's amazing, but the team can't get anything done because they're all amazing. It's like, you ever notice when they make a movie and everybody in the movie's famous, like literally everybody, the movie always sucks? You ever notice that? They always suck. You know why? Because they're all trying to get the limelight. They all want to be the star of the show, and it doesn't work. And so, yeah, building a team is difficult, man. It is absolutely difficult. I have to say, though, now that we're at, I think, 88 employees, I believe, something like that, we have a great team. And we're now we're very selectively bringing on additional people onto that team. I think we won't hit 100 by the end of the year, but we'll be very, very close. And that team is now the heart and soul of Coinmetro, right? I might be the face, but the heart, are those 88 people that every day are just fucking smashing it, to be honest. Yeah. Thank you for your thoughts on thought. Well, thank you, Bri. Also, when are we going to see a new item in Invest? The Invest platform. So come middle to end of November, the Invest platform or primary markets will now require a crowdfunding license in Europe, which we have yet to acquire. And so I believe it is on our roadmap to acquire that license. We were actually going to do it earlier this year, actually even into last year. But things happened and we had to focus on other pieces of the puzzle. But we will acquire that license. I think you probably will end up seeing something more on Invest and kind of a new, even a new platform design sometime probably Q4 next year, maybe Q3. But it's gonna be a bit of time because we do need to acquire that license, which isn't a huge roadblock, to be honest, but it needs to be acquired. And I think we need to retool a bit how we do raises on the Invest platform. Do you think USD will continue to appreciate versus Euro in the coming months? That's a great question because it was surprising to me how fast the US dollar appreciated against the Euro this year. But when I step back, hindsight being 2020 and all that good nonsense, and think about it, because I can't say I sat down one day and thought, how much will the USD appreciate against the Euro? And did calculations or whatever. I didn't do that. Had I done that though, had I still been in FX full time and actually did that, most of the time when there is a micro crisis, meaning that a crisis that affects only Europe. Well, Europe's pretty big, but only Australia, only Japan, whatever. And it's not macro. Well, even a macro crisis in a region of the world, but not a global crisis. The USD generally appreciates because people go to the US dollar as a, in times of fear and crisis. They used to run to the Swiss franc. They used to run to the Japanese yen for different reasons. They don't anymore. The USD is like the only game in town when it comes to fiat currencies where you go when you feel that the world's in trouble. But what happens when the entire world is in trouble? You know, COVID lockdowns, like inflation, all this stuff. And then you look at the numbers and you realize that most of the inflation in Europe and other parts of the world is energy related. And they're not seeing that same inflation in the US. And you also look at, you know, economies in general. Now, this could be because the US printed a fuck ton of money, way more than anybody else, but economies on paper, at least, US seems to be holding on a bit better than the rest of the world. So you not only have certain regions of the world putting their money in USD that always have Latin America, South America, Mexico, Canada, to a certain extent, Asia. And now you also have Europe, right? And historically, you don't really see that in times of crisis for the most part. And now you're seeing it just, you know, at a crazy amount of money flowing into the US dollar. I don't think that's going to slow down. However, I do believe that when it comes to Europe as a whole and the world as a whole, you're going to see central banks having to combat the falling euro. They have to, especially when it comes to economies that are import economies, or even economies that are export economies to a certain extent. They're going to have to fight as much as they can to maintain some form of value with the euros, close to parity as they possibly can. So it's I think if we see another major quantitative easing happening in Europe and in other parts of the world, we're already seeing in the UK, Bank of England's already back to quantitative easing. If we start to see that in Germany and elsewhere, we may see the dollar continue to rise against the euro. If we see it in the US first, which is possible, then potentially we start to even out and we go back above parity. In my mind, I wouldn't be buying US dollars right now, speculating. I mean, just to have a bit of your cash, if you have cash in US dollars versus euro, not the worst idea at any time, to be honest, in the modern world. However, I wouldn't necessarily be speculating on the US dollar. I don't know if I'd be longing the dollar versus the euro right now, because trying to figure out what's going to happen next with all these different global economies, not the easiest thing to do in a regular market, never mind in the market we currently find ourselves in. My other question got skipped. Update on liquidity. Massive percentage of my net worth in XCM. I'm getting worried. Hey, KB. So liquidity in general, you may have noticed that a lot of those altcoins have way better liquidity than they used to. So you're going to get a nice blog post or probably an email about that. So I'm not going to spoil the fun there, but definitely there's been updates on liquidity. When it comes to XCM, it is still a major project. I know people are making fun of that because they think that means that, you know, every day there should be some update. There is right now 4 or 5 things that are on the plate to do. Some of those are going to happen in October. Some of them will happen in November. That will absolutely change the way the XCM book works. Understand that while you have a massive percentage of your net worth, so do I, so do a lot of people, so does a lot of our shareholders. I have a fiduciary responsibility, not only to token holders, but to shareholders, and everybody owns XCM. And so we will fix it. You have my word, we will fix it. It's not the easiest thing to fix, because a lot of things you think may immediately fix may actually just have a negative effect. One not specific example, but just an example. If we were to do something that basically removed all the sell orders, let's just say, I'm not saying we're doing this, right? But just sell orders are gone. And there's a buy side, you know, equivalent to what the buy side was before the crash of the general crypto market, like 1.5 million, something like that. Would that fix the problem? Maybe. But maybe what would happen is that people would see 1.5 million sitting there, also still having a bunch of liquidity issues on the rest of their assets that they own, and say, you know what, I'm going to sell a bit of XCM. I wasn't going to before, but I'm going to do it now. And it just eats up that buy side again. We get stuck in the same situation. And so there has to be a nuanced approach, things that are short-term, medium-term, and long-term, all at the same time. And to make sure that we can schedule those things, do those things from a technical aspect, but also make sure that people know what we're doing so it has maximum impact, there has to be planning involved. I told you we have a new head of marketing, only 2 weeks on the job, already involved in that planning. Product is involved in that planning. Back end and front end are involved in that planning. Legal is involved in that planning. Everybody's involved in that planning. In fact, it's been brought up in pretty much every meeting I've been in with management for the past 2 months, and we're getting there. So I get it, but we are working on it, and trust me, it is vital. It's just not something that's, you don't just click a switch to fix it. What are you most excited about for Q4 2022 and also Q1 2023? Well, for Q4, I am excited just to end 2022. To be honest, let's just get rid of 2022. Let's kind of act like it never happened, type of thing. So let's just finish it. I am excited for some of the changes that are coming on our platforms. I think that's what I've seen. And some of you may have seen some of that stuff in our feedback channel, but what I've seen, this is really going to put us, I think, better than almost any one of our competitors. Just a so much better user experience. Also excited for some changes coming to our onboarding process. We always have changes coming there, trying to streamline, but I'm excited about that as well. Also just excited about getting ready and gearing up and raising some money so that we can just push really hard in 2023. And that's going to be fun. For Q1, I think digital fiat stuff, right? Getting IBANs out there, starting to get the debit cards rolled out, probably into Q2, but still getting all that stuff moving in the right direction, and getting more fiats on board. Also excited about that. And getting Mars reactivated. That's Q4 though. That's Q4. Was the community media training you took in September useful for the panels you attended? Not really for the panels. I mean, not to toot my own horn, but I can talk, right? So getting asked questions, unless it's at 5 a.m. In a dimly lit room, I'm pretty good, right? I try not to do the ums and the ahs. I try not to say I've been training myself over the years. That doesn't mean that people aren't better than I am, because they are. And you can definitely learn from people no matter how good you think you are at something, even whether you're the Michael Jordan of media interviews or the LeBron James, depending on who you think might be the GOAT. At the end of the day, you still can get better. There is still someone better than you. Might not be as known as you are, but there's always someone better than you. So from that aspect, yeah, I guess it probably did. But that media training was more about how to deal with tough questions from the media when they throw them at you off guard, and how to stick to your narrative, move around the question, and do that in a way where it's not cocky, where it's not arrogant. It can be very easy when someone asks you a question, you little eye roll, little giggle, little smirk, and trying not to do that is difficult. And that's really what the training was about. So maybe, I don't know, maybe it did. I guess everything you do in life kind of trains you for the next thing you do in life. So I guess from that aspect, maybe it did. How do you plan to deal with people buying XCM on Uniswap at a fraction of the price and then adding it to the sell wall? I don't plan on dealing with it at all. I think that's healthy, to be honest. We all talk about choice, right? Well, I think it's great that there's a choice. The fact that they added right to the sell wall, well, my job is to make sure that 4,000 or 5,000 euro that sits at Uniswap, or even it's $1 million that sits at Uniswap, is meaningless, because our order book can just eat it. That's the end goal. I think people should be able to go on Uniswap. I think that's amazing. And I think if they want to sell for a lower price there, have at it, right? At Coinmetro, there's a price. You want to sell it for somewhere else. That's like anything, right? I mean, if you buy a car, a brand new car for 40,000 euro, 40,000 euro, and you want to go and sell it for 10,000 euro, have at it. Put an ad up, sell it. Somebody else might go and sell it right back to the dealer as a trade-in for 30,000. Great. Guy made some money. Dealership makes some money. And the other dude, well, for whatever reason, he wanted to sell it. He sold it. So I think that's fine. That's a free market. Great. No problem. My goal, again, is to make sure that no matter how much gets sold on Uniswap today, tomorrow, or 10 years from now, our order book can just eat it up anyway. Did you talk to Cadena devs on any of those events no, I didn't. I didn't. Not that they may have been there, but I didn't run into any Cadena devs at any of the events. What do you like most and dislike most about your job as CEO? All right. Well, what do I like most? I like this kind of stuff, right? So I like talking to you guys. I like going on panels and doing keynotes and talking to people, and a little bit of education, trying to make things fun, and not so boring, because finance can be pretty fucking boring. And so that stuff I like. I like the spokesman stuff. I like the vision stuff. I like to sit in a meeting and talk about what our vision is and what type of products we should be launching. I like having strategy talks. I like strategy. Strategy's fun. What I dislike sometimes is, I guess, people issues. I don't like dealing with people issues. Not that I don't like people. I mean, there's definitely a long list of people I don't like, but not that I don't like people, but people issues. It's one of those things where when things don't happen to you, or you don't feel a certain way when things happen and other people do, that stuff is really difficult for me. For instance, like if I walk into a room and somebody's crying, I just kind of walk out. I don't know what to do in those situations. I get like all mind blocked and I'm like, I don't know what to say. I'm probably going to say the wrong thing, or I'm going to try and make a joke and it's just going to make it worse. So I avoid those situations, right? So people situations are difficult for me and I have to deal with them. So I deal with them, but they're difficult. And it's definitely not the thing I want to do every day of my life. So hats off to people operations, all HR departments out there, because fucking amazing. Something I definitely can't do and don't want to do. And hats off to our people operations team, because they have to deal with stuff on a regular basis and they do a great job. So hats off. Other things, I guess, as you get older, man, you realize what you're good at, what you're not good at. I'm not a structure and organizational guy. In some pieces of my life, I'm very organized, and others just not, And, if it's not my calendar, I'm not going to make it. I need help with stuff like that. That's why I have so many people around me, so they can help me. So be the best of myself. I get things done, because if I'm left up to my own devices, I'll figure it out. Somehow I got here, and somehow, I've had some success in my life, but I also need help, right? I need people around me. I need good people around me. So, making an Excel sheet. Oh, fuck no, man. I can't do it. Not that I don't know how to use Excel. I mean, I don't, but that's not really the problem, because I could figure it out, but I don't want to. I don't want to figure it out. I don't want to do that. Those type of things are just, I feel like I'm wasting my time. I think there's so many other better things I could be doing. So maybe that explains it. Well, love you too, Anonymous. I think. I hope that doesn't come back to haunt me now. A famous trader said he noticed that his team performed better when he kept the worst guy of the team instead of hiring only excellent people. Yeah. It's true, man. I'm telling you, if you think about the best analogy I can give you is the one I already said, which is movies. I'm trying to think of one of those. Like, what is it? There was one of these, like Murder on the Nile or some shit like that, or whatever. Like one of these movies. Like literally everybody in the movie was a headliner, and it sucked. I mean, that's it. What life doesn't work that way. Is Ignium still surviving? As far as I know, yep, they're still kicking along. But I've been, to be honest, I've been so busy and traveling and moving around. I've had zero time to have a chat about Ignium, or with Ignium for that matter, in the last couple of weeks. Any interesting new contacts, partnerships, connections from your recent round of conferences? Yeah, there are. I think I touched on that a bit earlier today. But yeah, there definitely are. There's a lot of B2B stuff. There's definitely some good contacts, some journalist contacts as well. Our PR manager, Dasha, has been doing a great job getting me connected to journalists, doing interviews and stuff like that. So definitely some good contacts. Absolutely. I don't think I've been to an event where I don't walk away with at least one good contact, even if sometimes they're just personal, right? They're just good people with a head on their shoulders, and you can bounce ideas, you can talk about stuff, you can get feedback. All that stuff is vital, I think, to running a business or in general. When will I be able to sell my XCM? We're working on it, man. We're working on stand up shorts. We are absolutely working on it. So my goal is that in the next couple AMAs, you won't have to ask me that question. Couple doesn't mean two, does it? Does it mean two? In a small amount of AMAs, you won't be able to ask me that. I think I just put my foot in my mouth on that one. I want to make sure that by the end of the year, let's put it that way, by the end of the year, you don't have to ask me that anymore. We are working on it. I know we say that, and I know maybe you think, I don't know, I stop the AMA and I just sit here and twiddle my thumbs and everybody's just like drooling in a corner or something, but that's definitely not the case. We are working on it. Yeah, I wouldn't go that far. I don't know, I guess this is what happens. This is what happens when you have people that have never been invested in anything that come into a new market, and anything that they don't like automatically becomes, a scam. There are a million stocks right now that have no liquidity, and they haven't had it for years, and price just sits where it sits. You can't get out, and sometimes you can't even get in. That's the way markets work. That's the way markets work. We will fix it. All hands on deck. We will fix it. That's it. So yeah, XCM definitely not a scam. But you're free to say it. I don't know how that helps, but you can say it. Have at it. Is there still no plan to scrap the floor? I took a margin position and would like not to get wrecked, sir. No plan to scrap the floor. No plan to scrap the floor. Patrick, he doesn't care about what you think. Actually, I care about what most people think. That doesn't mean I'll do what you ask. But why do you think I do these things? If I didn't care about what people thought, why would I sit here and listen? You missed JK's question at the beginning of the AMA. Interesting ones. Did I? All right. Let's see what I missed. JK. Yeah, I don't see a question I missed. Maybe it just didn't come through on my end. But there's not one question I see I missed here. So if I did miss something you want to ask me, please ask me again. Been there since 2018. Much love to you and the team. Thanks, KB. Appreciate that. Where did the sudden spike of 6 million XCM stake come from? Well, I think, to be honest, I think it's just people. There's a group of investors, I think, that just simply hadn't logged into their accounts. Simple as that. And if you remember, we increased staking limits to 1 million some time ago, and I think some people just didn't realize, and they realized, and they're all part of the same group. So word went around, and done. Do you reckon the OPEC developments will have a big enough effect on USD value to counter Fed hikes? And is WAN a good hedge, even with crazy developments? And how will it affect the crypto market? Well, I think OPEC can definitely sway a little bit the dollar power, but we're talking about such a macro event that, to be honest, I don't know how much it can sway. In a normal market circumstance, OPEC could swing the dollar maybe somewhere between like 1% and 5%. In this market, I don't know if it has the same power, to be quite honest. You can argue that energy is a big reason why we're seeing this kind of global crisis. And so potentially energy has more power, but I don't think they do. In fact, I think the stronger USD is hurting OPEC, not helping it. And so I'm not sure how much leverage they may have to swing the pendulum. Chinese yuan, for me, that's a difficult one to answer because it's obviously a manipulated market. Not that all markets aren't, but it's definitely a manipulated market. China's economy is no better than anyone else's. They just get to hide it. They just get to hide the bad stuff. But yeah, I don't think I'd be going as yuan as a hedge. Crypto market in general, well, strong dollar could be good for crypto. In the long run, if crypto proves to be what we all think it is, then all this nonsense should be very good for crypto. But we have to decouple from traditional markets first, and we're not there yet. Though I have seen some reports that we are decoupling. But I've seen those before. I mean, I haven't seen that happen for long enough to say, well, yeah, we actually decoupled from equities. We're still pretty much coupled, I think. Where did the 6 million? Okay, I think I answered that one already. How do I learn to trade? Oof. You learn to trade like you learn to do anything else. You get on the bike, you fall off, you get on the bike, you fall off, you get on the bike, you fall off, get on the bike, you wobble a bit, you fall off, get on the bike, you wobble a bit less, and eventually you know how to ride the bike. Same thing with trading. Just make sure when you're falling, you're not falling with your life savings. Keep risk to a minimum. Learn how to manage risk. That's really what trading is all about. It's not about picking tops and bottoms. If you know how to manage risk, you'll make money. Being based in Estonia, which suffered cyber attacks in the past, does this invasion crisis mean you invest more in security now? Well, our infrastructure is not in Estonia. So that's kind of an irrelevant question. And yes, Estonia did face cyber attacks. That's when they put everything on Murcko tree, or what they call blockchain now. And since then, and they also the cyber bunker for NATO sits inside, is in Tallinn, actually. It's pretty close to the office. But that aside, we don't have any infrastructure in Estonia. So I guess the answer to your question is no, but that doesn't mean that I talked about already that we're increasing all the time our security and et cetera to make sure that bad stuff doesn't happen. But it's not because of this. Any chance of allowing more XCM as collateral soon? Yeah, once the book gets rectified, I think that's a definite possibility. JK, Native Hedera starts tomorrow. What about on Coinmetro? New regulations, what to expect, and Quant versus Link, what would you pick? Okay, I definitely did not come. This did not come through. So Native Hedera, tomorrow, we're not sporting it tomorrow, as far as I know. It really depends on if Fireblocks and BitGo support Native Hedera, and then we can integrate on our side. Once they do, and once it's stable, then it's something that we can integrate. New regulations. I don't know. I don't know what the question is there. So I'd have to be more specific. What to expect, quant versus link? Which would you pick? In the long run, and I know this is going to piss off a lot of people, I'd probably pick link out of those two. And the reason is I can readily see link's use case and why it would be needed, who's using it, and who may use it, and why they may use it. I can't say the same thing about quant. So yeah, we can have a debate about that one though. That would be a good debate. Native Hedera staking. Okay. So I actually don't have any information about that, but if it launches and it's supported by again, probably by Fireblocks, if Fireblocks gives us an easy way to connect without us having to build out the infrastructure ourselves, then that would definitely be something we're looking at. We also have a few other partners in the staking realm, protocol partners, not counterparties. So potentially, yes. I had several staking plans that expired and I didn't realize it. Recently restaked that XCM, not 6 million, but maybe that's a part of it. Thank you, Ryan. I'm sure it's a part of it. Absolutely. Will new stakeable assets use Fireblocks or is CM developing their own infrastructure? Most will use Fireblocks, though in the future that we're all about building our own infrastructure. So Fireblocks infrastructure is not going to be about counterparties, i.e. we place assets with somebody. It's more about protocol infrastructure. And so, we want to reduce counterparty risk, not increase it. But in the future, yeah, I do think we will be building, it's just resources, right? So to get things out the door, Fireblocks is going to be our first option, and BitGo and other custodian providers. So Mika. Mika, I would say the current Estonian regulation, the current Estonian licensing regime is very close to what Mika is trying to do. It's 85, 90, 95% of the way there. I was on a panel in Copenhagen with the head of innovation from the FSA in Estonia. She did mention to me when we got off the panel that we would have to file for another license application once Mika was enforced. We expect that to happen Q1 next year, maybe into Q2, but probably Q1. That's at least what people are talking about. And we will apply. Whether we apply in Estonia or somewhere else remains to be seen. The reason is that we don't have to apply in Estonia. And I would love to find the most amenable regulator when it comes to crypto in the EU and apply there. Now, that very well may end up being Estonia, it may be Finland, it may be the Netherlands, it may be, Denmark. I don't know where it's going to be. But since it's passportable, we can apply anywhere. So right now we're kind of researching to see what regulators are the most amenable, who is really wanting to try and make crypto, the new financial ecosystem, and then work with them. Because the closer we can work with the regulator, the more that they're willing to listen to us, and the more that they're willing to have back and forth with us, the better it is for us and the better it is for the industry as a whole. So what to expect in terms of just broader strokes? I wouldn't expect major differences in how we provide services, et cetera, off the bat. There will, however, be obviously a few years worth of testing where regulators are going to be looking to see what happens, what breaks, et cetera, and then apply legislation. Most of the kind of slightly heavy-handed stuff is about stable coins. We don't service that many stable coins as it is now. Not that we wouldn't like to, but I think that's where we might see a little bit of friction, at least in the beginning. Outside of that, though, and maybe a little bit about travel rule, which again has already been implemented, so probably won't see additional friction. But those things are going to be probably a bit in flux. But outside of that, I wouldn't expect major differences to what you see now when you deal with Coinmetro and other regulated exchanges in Europe. Is there any way to create my own cryptocurrency? Yep, absolutely. Anybody can create a cryptocurrency. You just need a smart contract. Well, depends on how you're creating it. If you're creating your own mainnet meaning you're creating the entire protocol. So you're creating a system by which either nodes or via mining, et cetera, that your kind of chain continues to expand. That obviously takes a little bit of know-how. You're not going to be able to do that, from your basement unless you really know what you're doing. But if you just want to create a token on some infrastructure, whether that be like ETH, or whether that be some other layer one that allows for token creation, yeah, you just need to write a smart contract. That's fairly easy. You can find templates of those all over the internet, and you can have a token launched and created or launched and minted within, literally minutes. There's also services like Hathor, for example, that allow you to create tokens just by filling out a form, basically. And so, yeah, you can definitely create your own cryptocurrency. Whether or not people actually use it, well, that's the difficulty. Donald, big scam. Okay, Donald, big scam. Donald thinks everything's a big scam, though. Everything. Like oxygen to Donald is a big scam. I'm pretty sure, the sun is a scam. because it's probably in cahoots with the moon to, destroy the planet or something. I don't know. So actually, I guess being called a big scam by Donald probably means that we're actually super legitimate. So thank you, Donald. Appreciate that. Thanks for taking the time to write out that amazing question. And you're welcome for the answer. What do you think of LTO, and future price? Well, we listed LTO. That doesn't mean that I liked it, but generally I did. It was one of the ones on the list that I thought was kind of unique, and I liked some of the stuff they were doing. As far as future price, to be honest, I haven't looked hard enough to be able to give you any type of interpretation. What I can tell you is, whether we like it or not, most crypto is correlated. And so the next time we see a quote unquote bull run, LTO is probably going to do quite well, just like pretty much everything else. The market still buoys itself. When Bitcoin does well, when Ethereum does well, when the majors do well, the rest of the market usually does well. There can always be a few outliers, but at the end of the day, anything with a community, and it's all, crypto is all about community. If you build a community that supports you, when price starts to rise, those are the first people that are jumping on the bandwagon. Those are the first people that are buying, and those are the people telling people about the project. Those are people that become the evangelists of the project, and those are the people that really make sure that the project survives outside of anything the actual business may be doing in terms of PR or marketing. So yeah, I'll take a look at LTO. You can ask me that again next week, man, and I'll give you a little more insight. We got about 3 minutes left. Maybe we should call it a day there. I'd love for Donald to ask a question. Can you clarify big scam? I think that would be cool, and we could actually talk about it. Anyway, guys, have a great weekend. It's still really early here in Las Vegas. I'm here for Money 2020. It starts on Sunday to Wednesday, I believe. It's going to be a big event. Lots of networking, mostly to investors and B2B. So maybe we'll have some great B2B news next week. Have a great weekend, everybody. As I always say, don't look at prices, and spend some time with friends and family. If you can't do it physically, do it virtually. As you know, when you're talking to your family, make sure you let them know they should buy XCM, because once that order book is cleared up again, man, XCM is, well, obviously the best token in the market. We all know that. I mean, I don't have to say that. That comes without saying. Oh, fake Donald. Oh, was it fake Donald? See, there's even a fake Donald. My man. Hey, Donald, you must be doing something right if there's a fake Donald. Amazing. Is there a way to join the XCM team? The Coinmetro team? Absolutely. You can head over to apply.workable.com/Coinmetro and look to see at all the different positions that are opened up. Apply for one. And yeah, awesome, man. Love to have new and really smart people on the team. You're welcome. You're welcome. Thanks, Monkey Biscuits. All right, guys, I'm going to call it a day. Have a great one. And yeah, buy some XCM, man. Come on. What's wrong with you guys? Lots of cool stuff, by the way, coming to help that XCM book. I'm not going to spill the beans right now, but there's a lot of cool stuff coming. You guys are going to be excited. I think everybody else will be excited. I think the market's going to be excited, to be honest. And fake Donald's a big scam. We'll leave it with that one. Fake Donald's a big scam. Cheers, guys.